soul in that machine. Plan now for the inevitable future. In college at Emory University in Atlanta 1967 to 1971, I was the second best physics student but always the best in my year in the physics lab, doing and writing about experiments we would run. I had a gift for math and scientific investigation. Then, I soured on physics. I switched to experimental psychology in my last 2 years. I conceived and did an honors experiment on how your brain computes, which got published in 1973. What was wrong with physics? Everything. It somehow thought that mathematics explained reality. It was obvious it didn't. As I later learned from reading James Clerk Maxwell, one of the greatest physicists of all time, in a book from a paper he originally wrote in his youth in the early mid-1800s on the physical lines of force, page 5, he stated correctly, "Mathematics just provides analogies to reality." I say not even close to an explanation of it. This is the guy that gave humanity in one of the greatest works in theoretical physics, the treatise on electricity and magnetism, all the mathematics to conquer mathematical control of the electromagnetic universe, like me. He knew the math was not explaining anything, even though it could be incredibly useful as a way to know analogically something about the real reality. I had become convinced that mathematics would never be an explanation of reality, because the explanation we really needed was for our human brains to understand. So we needed to understand how our human brains compute in order to actually appreciate what reality really is. In that experiment, I showed that visual brain computation could interfere directly with human auditory vocal computation in certain predictable ways. One part of the brain in the back of your head, partnering with knowledge in another part on the left side of your head near your ears. I was seeing directly how human brains compute in order to think and remember things. Being a seriously Southern boy, I really did not know anything about the world beyond the Mason-Dixon line, so I found the University of Virginia had some experimental psychologists who were willing to accept me into their PhD program despite my ridiculous ambition to learn how human brains compute on the reality, whatever that was, that they found themselves in. Reality was really giving me a hard time, and I wanted to figure out how to tame it and turn it into something I could understand. Mathematics and physics was not going to do that. I have since mostly figured out what I wanted to figure out. This isn't the story of how I figured it out, but instead, more interestingly, what I figured out. Your brain, as René Descartes wrote around 1600 AD, is perfectly capable of figuring out reality and explaining reality to you. You just have to ask. As Descartes famously wrote in his method, "I think, therefore I am." Figure out how you think and remember things, and you can understand, in the only way any human brain can most fully understand, reality. In that decision I made in college to move from physics to experimental psychology, I had stumbled across computers and learned how to program them. Finally, I saw clearly a kind of mathematics that could allow me to prove I understood how human brains compute by being able to create a human, artificially. I was by no means alone. There were hundreds of us. Over the last 50 years, we finally did it. We can create really human robots. This is not so much the story of what we discovered. It is the story of what we can now expect the world to be like in the future. When Maxwell published his great work in the later 1800s, it predicted the world we live in today with our universal control, as Maxwell wrote in one of his popular little books, of all matter and motion. Even light can push matter, as Einstein later derived from Maxwell's mathematical understanding of light. We first saw how to build human brains way back 50 years ago. But it wasn't until we could build the models we needed out of electronic circuits, which Maxwell taught us how to build, that we can show that our explanations of how human brains compute were correct. Most recently, Elon Musk, among many others, put together the puzzle pieces and started building the future inevitable from our scientific endeavors. The result: in the future, you will be able to make money for yourself by putting your soul into humanoid machines. It will support the human species economically taking over the universe as fast as physics will allow. The Earth back in the early 1800s was not particularly friendly to humans, but now it is. Sadly, we now know the universe makes the human-unfriendly Earth look like a pushover plush with fun things to safely do. It won't be fun to go to the moon, the planets, our solar system, and beyond. At least it won't be fun for the same bodies and brains we evolved to conquer the Earth. Here's the mix of things we need to put together that Musk, and I need you to know, many others, have figured out. Humanoid robots are what we need to inhabit the universe beyond the Earth. Rockets that can move large populations of humans to build the right humanoid robots, and environments that humans can safely vacation to and have fun. Underground digging, because the places where actual humans can be safe will need to be underground, shielded from the harsh universe. Electric motor everything to transport us, move our stuff around in space, and be the basis for our robots too. Electrical power to make sure we have all the power everywhere we need it, when we need it for our electric motor everythings. Communications across all human boundaries as fast as light permits so we can do the last thing and all the others. Finally, a way to insert our individual souls into the individual robots we personally own. From this, we can imagine billions of robots controlled by billions of humans throughout our solar system, inhabiting the other planets, moons, rocks, and space stations to make sure we can have good vacations and other experiences. We can experience what it is like to safely live and thrive as humans on Earth or anywhere else. Perhaps even to the point of setting loose millions of our robots on the long journeys to other solar systems. Or very, very large spaceships with millions of robots out to spread humanity safely and thoroughly throughout our galaxy and beyond. Let's concentrate now on what Elon is experimenting with, putting our souls into our robots. This is his Neuralink venture. Like digging, nice try, Elon. But though making useful and valuable contributions to being human, it won't work very well. My own opinion is I don't want to open my brain to your control, and never will. I believe in retaining my liberty as a human. So, it turns out, more or less secretly, Elon is developing that technology too, to put your soul into humanoid robots without tinkering with your brain too much. You may have noticed already that many times you've seen his Optimus robots, they are teleoperated by individual humans. That's the way to go. So imagine you own, personally, 100 Optimi robots or Chinese or European versions thereof. Here are the rules of teleoperation we, as humans, need to be happy. We need teleoperation lounge chairs. Finally, we have a healthy use of our television and laptop technology and our living rooms. Furthermore, every minute we use this technology to direct our robots, we can be earning income paid to the robots we direct. Our cars can be smart about their owners and how to allow their owners to express their owners' souls into their owners' robots. Being human, it is highly likely that each of our personal robots would have a name that we like. The robots you own are mated to you for life unless you sell it to someone else or it gets killed somehow. But your soul may not necessarily die in your robots if they live long enough, somewhere in the solar system. Arrangements need to be made with your wife, husband, children, parents, and so forth, on whether, if you die or become incapable to take responsibility for one or more of your robots, one of them can without inserting their soul into it, without your permission, of course. Robots rule number 1. Protect your soulmate. Do your jobs and collect and manage the money for him or her. The banks will love this. The rule number 1 that people used to think that robots would have do no harm is not exactly valid anymore. You, as a human, are responsible for your robots and what they do. You get to, within the law, tell them what they can do. You talk to your robots. You can set up Zoom calls with all of them, as in, get all my guys together to learn a song I just wrote for performances that somebody might want to pay for. But generally the robots are autonomously doing the things you tell them to do. Elki, yeah, just helping to dig that new city on Mars I sent you to Mars to do. Tell the paymaster robot employing your robot you need a raise for your robot by 10% and that otherwise you will quit and leave him with your power bill, which by law he must provide. Be entertained by your robot by finding out what interesting things he did in the last month. Ask for a 10-minute video, because that's the amount of time you have to watch what he learned or experienced. Cast your soul into your robot by talking to it. Well, that's the end of my story. If you think about it a little, you will see that you can have a lot more fun with humans, because all humans will become unbelievably wealthy by current standards. Just like we have become unbelievably wealthy by the standards of a human living his regular life in 1850 AD. Life gets better. But individual humans make money by being responsible for one or more humanoid robots that they own. Now, imagine you have a team of robots who you own to work out places you want to travel, or places you want them to travel and do, so you can have lots more fun interacting with the real world.